Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order will be to approve the minutes for Thursday, August 27th. A motion.
I'll move.
Bob has moved. Tim has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 5-0. Need a motion to approve Monday, August 24th minutes.
Also moved.
Don has moved. Need a second? I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
You'll abstain because you are participating, I assume, so we'll go 4-0 on that. Moving on to consent agenda, upon the request of Coffee County Housing Authority, move to authorize the director chairman to sign real estate mortgage release, acknowledging satisfaction in full debt secured by Bobby M. Staton Jr. and Donna K. Staton. Physical address is 407 Des Moines in Burlington, 2, the east half of Block 3, in Block 56 in the city of Burlington, Coffee County, Kansas. Book volume M263, page 48-49 of the records of the Register of Deeds for the Coffee County, Kansas.
Also moved.
Don's moved, need a second. I'll second that. That'll be in my district, I believe. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Did I get a different copy to sign, or did I sign this one in the book?
No, I gave you the original. Oh, you got.
For the-
Sorry, I thought you were talking about.
So miscellaneous. Move to appoint Commissioner Tim Johnson as Coffee County campaign representative to replace Cody Haddock, effective immediately.
I'll move.
Bob's moved, Fred is seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Move to appoint Commissioner Tim Johnson as the non-lawyer member to the 4th District Judicial Nominating Commission, beginning immediately, ending March 4th, 2020.
Put that date wrong. March 4th has already been here.
Why you gotta add it?
Oh, yeah, that is wrong.
What is the date?
2021.
What's the date for the ending?
I don't know when it actually started.
We'll just hold off on that until we get the correct date.
It's March 4th, 2024.
2024?
Thank you for pointing that out.
I just read it. So, as corrected, effective immediately, ending March 4th, 2024. Fred has moved, need a second?
I'll second.
Don seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. The last one would be tax abatement. Move to authorize the direct chairman to sign one tax abatement to the Coffee County, to the county tax roll in the amount of $1,234.10. Also moved. The second,
I'll second.
John seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We will assume the reason for that would be because it was purchased at a lower value than what it appraised at.
Actually, I don't know the answer to that. Terry's checking with the appraiser's office on what the reason was. So
Okay.
I can have that for you here shortly. So.
We still want to proceed. Bob and I talked about it briefly, so.
All I can tell you is what it says on the change order, that it was the 2019 second half, real estate abatement.
I'd have no problem with whatever the reason is. I'm sure it's justified reason. I'm just curious, was curious to know the
Yeah,
reason.
I was too. Yeah, I'm sure it's justifiable. We're just curious. So,
As soon as I get an answer, I can explain that if you want to go ahead and prove it.
yeah, just a curiosity. sake. We'll go ahead and prove it. We have no problem. Thank you. With that being said, that's done. Wayne,
Morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Don. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
you have a lot to talk about today.
No, I do not. I have at least one motion.
You know, it's pretty empty till 10 o'clock.
Is that a challenge?
Don't agree.
I can do it. I can do it.
I was curious though, what's that plywood for in the landfill?
What we have is,
Sorry to interrupt you.
oh no, that's fine, is when we put a temporary flap, say over a berm on the transition, where we have the in termination of the cell, we have a berm. And so what they do is they weld a flap onto it and put it over. And then as they build up the waste on that, the waste would come down on that flap. Well, that plywood becomes the protective layer that protects you before you get to that liner.
Okay.
So once you hit that plywood, when you're excavating out, then you know to stop and you know where you're at. So that's what the plywood is about.
Thank you.
Mhm. Well, that was just 2 minutes into extra. We'll see what I can do. Okay, we have one road permit. And now on that road permit, it's from the Great Lakes Dredging and Dock Company. And so the permit has not and will not be sent out to them at this point, even though we're showing it to be approved. We're waiting for at least one more document. On this, it was contingent upon one, which we had just received this morning, $4,000 towards the purchase of rock for Capper Lane. And so we had made that agreement with them, and they have basically by check made payment to that. Now we're waiting for a $10,000 bond, maintenance bond that's going to be good for 10 years. And this is for basically the storage areas that they had constructed for the dredging. And so as these storage areas, they actually have outlet pipes that will flow into the county ditches. So we're maintaining a bond to make sure that we have coverage as far as any type of potential repairs. But as I say, it's been approved, but it hasn't been finalized. We're just waiting for the bond. Okay. Then I just move right into the motion, and the motion would be, this is something that we've had on the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund. We're finding it difficult for our forces to do the work at this point due to all the projects that we have before us. And so we're going ahead and taking action to ask to solicit bids. And this would be to re-roof the 2 storage sheds that we have in the yard. And so those right now, as you'd asked before, what amounts to is when we have mix, we have salt in one area, but when we mix it, we'll place that in those storage sheds, and it's used as storage for some ice removal. So
Roof is that asphalt.
it would be just a composition shingles. Yes, sir. And so there is on this too in the bid, or will be in the bid, actually cost to replace the sheeting if need be. If the sheeting's good, obviously we'll just shingle over it. If it's not, we're going to replace the sheeting as we go. And so that's what we have.
So based on the recommendation of the county engineer, move to approve recommendation to take informal bids to re-roof and replace decking as needed for 2 highway department salt storage shed. Funds be paid from the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund.
This need to be it's too formed by the county.
Well, this is as per our purchasing policy. What I'm going to be doing is taking informal bids, and I'll be bringing them back to you and letting you see basically the low bid onto it. But
Okay.
to answer your question, I can't, it's going to be up to the attorney, but as to form, I'm complying with the policy, purchasing policy.
All that means is we're doing it the proper way.
I think mostly on the as-the form is when we have contracts, mostly, I would say.
It's just down to kids.
Mhm.
Need a motion?
Also move.
Don's moved,
I'll second it.
Ken second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Okay, construction zone.
How high are these salt sheds? No, to the.
Yeah, to the opening onto it, at this time, I'd say we're probably looking at a 12-foot high opening. I might be slightly off on that because we are able to get our loader in there a little bit. So it could be at least 12 to 14 foot in height, for the opening onto it. As far as the roof line, where the roof's at, it's a steeper roof. I can't, it's possibly closer to a 2-to-1 type pitch.
Usually loaded with skid steer then, you can get your loader in, but you usually use the skid steer load.
Yes, sir. As far as continuing to push it back. Mhm. I mean, we looked at metal roofs onto it, but that just wouldn't work with the salt to make it more permeable.
It's my hand.
Yeah. So, okay. Construction zone is just to highlight a few things that we're working on and a few things that are ongoing. So as we have some crossroad pipes, bridge crews working on, some erosion, locations as well, landfill construction, to give you an overall on that. At this point, we did have, several guys, working here last Friday, so that was overtime to be able to get the liner, ready, or to be able to get the cell ready for the liner. And so the liner folks are actually here today. They were here this morning, started at 7 o'clock. We should be seeing the liner go down, weather permitting, as early as Tuesday, tomorrow. And they should be here for at least a week, once again, with weather permitting. And so that activity is going on. We also had a meeting with Knight's Trucking for the filter rock. That's basically requirement for the cell. That was actually started. They started some loads here Friday, and then they'll be finishing out the loads this week. It's about 15,000 tons is what you're looking at. It's a 3-inch type rock. And so that's what's going on at the landfill. And then we're doing our chipping. We're finishing up our chipping. It should be, for the most part, this week. We are down Leroy. We will be down Leroy doing reefer. And then we're also doing that little section inside that we're doing the double chip seal on. We'll be grinding that up and then putting the penetration oil down actually today, if the rain holds off a little bit. Continuing the boom mow countywide. We're also, as far as the operations, we're looking at projects that we had proposed and projects that have been finished and projects that are yet to be finished. And so we'll be looking at those and getting an idea as far as what the schedule is going to be for the rest of the year. Believe it or not, we're almost into September. So that's what we're looking at. Matthias Lake is definitely, that project is first on the books. And so there's several things that are going on. One of them would be also that ditch, that big ditch that we have over on Oxen. Right now, Ryan will be meeting with the landowner today, a landowner from, actually it's from Texas, but he's coming down to take a look at that right away. Reason why I wanted to bring that one up is just it's quite a bit. It actually is a little more than what we normally have for right of way, but we're looking at 2.8 acres. But as you've seen that ditch, that's a fairly good sized ditch. We're also, too, for information, is what you're going to find is that waste material, or that, not waste necessarily, but that soil material is actually being spread back out on the field. So we're actually, on this particular one, we're going back into the field after the crop has been harvested and spreading that material out. It's cheaper that way than it is to pick it up and haul it away. And so that's arrangements that we've made. The 2.81 acres is we're paying at the agreed price for cultivated bottom ground. That's $28.60 per acre. And so you'll see actually a voucher for over $8,000 for right-of-way on that particular project. And so I just wanted to bring that up and let you know about that activity. And we will start that probably within the next couple of weeks as we're finishing up the landfill. Almost finished with it, pretty much finished with it this week. Just a few things, making sure that we're ahead of the liner folks. But as we're finishing that up, that's our next project that we'll be working on. And then we have the precast that we'll be working on over there on Native that we've already ordered. Just need to get those delivered, so we'll have those in place. And then we'll be doing the excavation that we've already discussed over on Native Road. This is Forest's, in front of Forest's property and such as that, be able to get that better drainage in that area. Things that we talked about that we were not able to do here last year. So that is construction zone at this point. Yes.
Rock at the landfill, 15,000 ton.
Yes.
Should that not have went out for bids?
It did. Yes,
It
sir.
did. Okay.
Yeah, March the 2nd, we went out for bids
Okay.
on the rock.
Okay, it's just, okay, that's been a long time ago.
Well, the bids have, but we didn't need the rock until we were pretty much done because too many activities going on in one location makes it difficult to be able to deliver safely.
Okay, I'm not quite, I was just curious. I didn't remember us doing that, but that's okay.
Yes. Yes, we did.
Okay,
On
thank
that
you.
one.
Wayne, all the rock at the landfill that we purchased, has that been shipped to the landfill?
The 5,000, it was just shortly of 5,000 tons. That was done. Yes, from Idecker. Yes, we have received that rock. And so I believe that's going to be a good AB3 rock for us and for the price.
The price is great.
So there's going to be multiple uses that we can benefit with that one. So at this point, that really concludes my report. As far as my talking points, I think I covered those. Not that I'm prepared to, but if you wanted to visit about at some point, and it might not be something that you want to visit about either, but I do want to put the thought to think about is Old Highway 50 is we need to, we talked about this before, is we need to grind up those shoulders and then actually compact them that would be more suitable to truck traffic at this point. There is just right near $500,000 that's left in the asphalt, Public Works Asphalt Fund that could add to that, but that is not one of my projects that I have approved, so that'd have to be something that would be added. It'd have to be discussion that you would have to allow me to go out for bids and actually come up with a plan to do that work. What I'm asking for you is to have some discussion to say if that's something that you'd like to do. I feel it is a worthy project. Things that we have to think about is there's a lot more truck traffic out there now than we've had in the past, and to remind folks that we've also have another rock quarry. Harshman has a rock quarry over on just basically east of Lebo. There's another rock quarry north of Old Highway 50 that's going to be utilizing that road as well. And so we have two rock quarries in the area. We have trucking business in the area. We have other folks that use that as well. And so I think it's a viable road. But I'd also too, is from previous conversations I've had, is take a look at the whole county and say, is there any way that we could take a look at routing? And routing would be, and I give this idea out again, is say, for example, if we're going to improve Old Highway 50, make it truck ready or truck heavy, do we need to make 22nd truck heavy? I mean, you have an east-west route. You make one truck ready, heavy. The other one you can make more residential type. Now, a person says, well, you're going to prevent our farmers from being able to use those roads. No, we can actually permit them. We can make permits available to our local ag producers to be able to use those roads legally. And so that is an option. We have permits that we give heavy loads to be able to travel on our county roads. You know, like when they're moving big houses and different things like that. It's a simple permit. Once I give them the permit, then they're able to use that road. And I can do the same thing for our ag producers as well. It would not restrict them. But what it would do, it would restrict commercial traffic. And mine is to look at the picture of the county and see how we're broke up. We actually have 75 highway that cuts right down the middle of the county. We have 58 highway that goes east-west in the southern part of the county. We have 12th road that cuts the middle east-west of the county. The north end, we have actually two roads. We have 22nd, and then we have Old Highway 50. Now, a person says, well, you also have 35. Yes, you do. You do have 35 up there. But 35 only allows 80,000 pounds, okay? Haulers, commercial haulers, can haul 85.5. 90,000 actually if they have an extra axle on their trailer. They can only haul those on our roads. They can't haul that on 35. They can only haul them on our roads. So if we don't address this, then all we're doing is treating each road equally. And so we're going to treat 22nd equal to 12 or to 58. Well, 58 we don't do, but we treat it equal to 12. We also treat it equal to 50. Does not your expenses also go up too if you treat each road equally? Take another look at, you look at your north-south roads. You have also Emmer and Fauna is a north-south road. You also have Shetland and Trefoil is a north-south road. You also have a portion of Wayside from 58 clear up to 16th Road is a north-south road. But if you treat them all equally, all truck heavy equally, you're incurring more cost on your roads. So you tell me what you want. That's why I'm here. But it'd be your policies and directions that I would take to be able to move forward. But, okay.
As far as your shoulder work you want to do, what kind of design do you have or in plan for that?
Initially would be to grind up the existing, now keep in mind, Old Highway 50 that was developed back in the 30s was 20 foot, it stayed 20 foot. All right, only till lately, we just added some asphalt on the shoulders.
We know that concrete is rigid up to that point.
Up to that point.
So I guess my question is, past that rigid point, what is your plan? So we have a non-fail.
What would actually work for the most part would be a 8 to 12 inch cement treated base with approximately 6 inches of hot mix asphalt over the top of it. What you're needing to do is whatever additions that you have to a rigid surface, as you mentioned, is it needs to be almost equivalent to that type of surface.
Exactly.
And if you don't have equivalents, then what you're going to find is you're going to find a weak area that's going to develop.
We'll have what we have now.
Yes, sir. And so as we have that, but you're still going to have separation. You're still going to have a crack because it's not going to bond. The thing is, we can't bond to that concrete. We have no way of bonding to it because we're not putting down concrete.
We're going to create a wedge out there at the end.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What we would do is we would grind that out 4 feet. Then we would have 2 foot of the hot mix asphalt. And also too, is I would recommend that we would put fabric onto it because as we had placed the fabric on the east side of 75, we found a lot of success with basically utilizing the fabric within a layer section of it. So what that would mean would be we would do all that work initially at 8 to 12 inches of cement treated base, 6 inches of hot mix asphalt. Then next time when we do the overlay on Old Highway 50, we would actually add fabric on those ends, those edges. And then what that would do, that would overlap on the old Highway 50 and transfer some of that tension force from that shoulder. And so you'd lay 2 inches of hot mix asphalt over the top of that. That's the success that we had on the east side of 75, utilizing that. Now there's a couple areas that we've had some damage on Old Highway 50 on the east side, but overall the road held quite well. But that was the method that we had used when we've done the overlay on that one, without doing the cement treated base.
Is your request is doing all of Highway 50 west of 75?
My initial one would be, with the money that's remaining in our budget, is to look at 75 to Lebo, is take care of that
Which
section.
would be 6 or 7 miles.
Yes, sir. Just right around 7 miles. The other side of it is there is some damage that's occurring on the other side, and we have used some fabric, but we're also seeing much more heavier truck traffic too. We didn't have the cement treated base on that. But mine would be to address the first section, the section that really was the weakest, with the intention to widen Old Highway 50 with not necessarily truck traffic at that point, but to widen Old Highway 50 to make it safer. And it was a maintenance project more than anything else, because we were needing to put 2 inches of asphalt on Old Highway 50 at that point. Then all we've done is just extended that 2 inches of asphalt on that shoulder. It was not intended to basically hold truck traffic, but it was to make things safer. And that's what we did.
So refresh my memory, when we did the cores at the expansion joints, or just off the expansion joints, we found that to be in relatively decent shape, is that correct?
We have done cores, we've done cores at various locations, and the concerns that I had was, what was the condition of Old Highway 50 not at the joints? What was the conditions of Old Highway 50 at the joints, okay, or near the joints? And so it was actually, I was surprised, the sections that were away from the joints themselves, and the joints are approximately every 120 feet, the sections that were not at those joints were actually in pretty good shape. The concrete was still solid.
So do we know how far past each joint deterioration has occurred?
Somewhere around 10 feet is for just a limited amount of cores that we have taken. We are going to find those joints.
Are we going to address that at the same time, or is that before you do an actual overlay?
I would say that would have to be done before the actual overlay.
But
But
you're concentrating on the
shoulders,
shoulders for now. So if we do those shoulders and then don't want you to do the joints, do we take part of that shoulder out as well?
most likely that's how it would come out, because at that point, when they're sawing through, they'll have to actually saw through that portion of it. So there'd be like 20 feet approximately on both ends of that would be sacrificed through the process. But what you're going to do then is you're going to take that joint out, and you've seen it if as you travel the state highways, you've seen this type of construction before, is you would saw cut that joint out, you would dowel in rebar into the good concrete, and then you would actually overlay it with concrete again, and then, or you'd pour concrete into it, and you'd overlay it with hot mix asphalt at that point. You're repairing the joint. I mean, ultimately that's what you're doing. But at that point too, the joint, since I have repaired on these joints at least 2 times on that section. That's what's filling is actually the joints. What you have is water is able to get down in the joint, and it's allowing the soil to basically heave up the joint. And then as it heaves up the joint, it rises, it gets dry, it comes down. Truckloads basically continue to pump it. And so you got weak areas, weak planes in the pavement. And so that's what's happening. It happens throughout the state. It's just part of the material process. It's part of the loads. And so, but you also got to keep in mind that road's been there since the 1930s. It's held up better than you would normally expect. You don't find state highways, to be in place that long. State highways, for the most part, about 20, 30 years at the most, is what you're going to find. And then what they do is they grind them all back up and they redo the highway. I mean, you see that throughout the state. We don't have that option. That's pretty expensive.
Am I understanding you right, that you're talking about at every joint from 75 to Lebo, every 120 feet? That's gonna be a major dollar.
That's 300.
You know, that's like they did, yeah, that's 35, 40 joints every mile. But you go south of Iola, you know, they've done all that type of work for the last 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, they went back in and spent 18 or 20 million dollars because it wasn't successful in fixing the joints. And I don't know all the detail. So just be, you know, if we decide to do that, that's no guarantee it's gonna fix the issue.
It's, you know, you're looking at pavement that's been there since the 1930s.
I drove it in the 60s all the time.
Yeah.
School.
But you know, it's not gonna be brand new pavement. And, you know, that's the discussion, and that's the discussion that we're having, is to say, okay, what do you want your roads to be truck heavy at? Well, what are you wanting to spend the money? It is gonna be a major investment. There's no question about it. There's a major investment if you're wanting to do Old Highway 50. But if you're wanting to take even, say, 22nd, for example, and make it a heavy road, it would not last as well as Old Highway 50. All right, 22nd wasn't built that way. 22nd is only basically subgrade material, AB3 type subgrade material, and asphalt. And there's even some questions on the embankment of that material, actually with the embankment that was put in to build it up. So there is even some questions on that. So that's where you're at. The thing is each one of them is going to have a factor of time. Once we do the shoulders, for example, you're going to have a factor of time of how long they last. You put the overlay onto them, you're going to have a factor of time how long that lasts until you have to go back in and do your joints. And so each one of them is going to just step that timeline, that chart, just a little bit further down there, okay? Until you just say, hey, we're just got to replace Old Highway 50, then you're talking millions of dollars to do. Which I don't think that's kind of how we
What
want
would
to
be
do it.
the value of moving the weight limit down to 80,000?
You
How
could,
much more work would have to be done if we moved that limit down to 80?
what we
Equal to what 35 is.
What we found, and this is where Mike would jump in, but when we were working with weight limits and such as that, one of the roads that we do have a weight limit on or a weight restriction on is Embankment Road. Okay, the only way that we could do that, because the sheriff's department, and this is atypical throughout the state, sheriff's departments do not have people certified or the equipment to be able to do the scales requirements to weigh vehicles. The Highway Patrol, for example, as I understood it, only has 2 units in 10,000 miles of the whole state of 105 counties, and they actually patrol within the counties too. They only have 2 units. So folks that basically run heavy loads, there's not too many folks to be able to check them. Okay, that's kind of where you're at. It is a rather hefty fine, as I understand it, but you don't have too many people to check them. So what we found was when we basically put a weight limit on Embankment Road, the only way we were able to do that was through basically tags. What is the vehicle tagged at? Then we had also limitations for certain service vehicles that were permitted. So the long story of that is, if you had a tagged vehicle over a certain weight, it was not allowed on that road. So then at that point, they could write a ticket because the resolution stated that. Okay, they didn't have to weigh them because the tag basically stated what their weight was. Then, once again, there were exemptions to certain type of service vehicles that were directed one way. That's the only way that we could do it. So to take your weight restriction and take it from an 85 to an 80,000, and we have these vehicles that are tagged well over 80,000, then how would they be able to get on the roads? that's where we would find we couldn't do it. The only way I could do it was, or would be able to, is say like ag producers in the county, by basically their name, their address, their vehicles, they could be exempt from it. You know, we would actually have a list or create a permit list and then give them the permits. That'd be one way of handling it.
Well, I've got 2 or 3 things that you mentioned. First of all, on Bankman Road, the only reason we put a weight limit on there is because the Corps of Engineers put a restriction on the dam itself. That's why we put that restriction on that road.
That is correct.
Okay, now I want to back up to Highway 50, and I've said this before. I think it's sad that we spent over $1 million to put those shoulders on there. Now we're looking at spending $500,000 to take them back off to make the road safe, when supposedly we put them on to make it safe. But now we're gonna take them off, spend another $500,000, it's the number you used, to take the $1 million worth of stuff out. I think that's sad. And the next thing is, I don't really want to make local people have to come in and see you to get a permit to drive down a road with their truck. I think if they're local, they ought to have a right to do that. They're the taxpayers of the county. I don't think they should have to come in and get a permit to drive down a road. And I understand what you're saying, yes, it's harder for the road, but you know, I think most people will accept the fact is that we take what we have and we use what we have now, and when something happens, then we take care of it. I don't know, I just think that I don't want to restrict people in the county. That's my thinking. Just my comments.
If I can address that,
Sure.
the 1 million that you made reference to is actually for the shouldering from county line to county line. The additional cost that we had for shouldering alone was the 1 million. Okay, for county line, county line. The section of Old Highway 50 was actually a maintenance road at that point. The section of Old Highway 50 was scheduled for a 2-inch overlay on Old Highway 50. The additional asphalt was just laid onto the shoulders as an opportunity, since we had that maintenance, to make it safer.
Yeah, let me jump in. I was talking to 1 million because I really didn't have a problem with the other 1.1 or 2 we spent for the overlay. I was just talking about the shoulders. So yeah, I wasn't talking about the rest of the overlay. I know the maintenance is maintenance. I'm okay with maintenance. So that's what I was talking about, the one you're referring to.
Right, as the shoulders, the other sections of Old Highway 50, as we improved the method, we still did not have cement treated base. But as we improved the method and put the fabric onto it, we found more success with those shoulders. They still, at some point, would need to still have the cement treated base at some point. But I think the section between 75 and Lebo would be the one that needs to be addressed. As far as locals coming in and getting a permit, mine is yeah, it'd be great if we could just say, just because of your address, you're able to get a permit. That would be great. It would be less work on me, Bob, but the idea is that I would think, and this would be something I'd have to work with the law enforcement, is that they would have to have a document to say that this vehicle is permitted to be able to go on that route. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the permit, is to have something in place that law enforcement is saying, yes, you are allowed to be on this road. If there's something else that we could do to make it where they wouldn't have to have anything at all, it would be a matter of a discussion with law enforcement and see what they need. Because what they're trying to do is basically enforce your laws, your resolutions within the county. How can they enforce them? They can only enforce them a certain way, and mine would be to find out what they would need to have in hand to be able to enforce it, if that's what you would want to do. So.
And I'll go back to, you keep using the word permit. I'm not in favor of a permit. If you're a taxpayer in Coffee County, you ought to have a right to use Coffee County roads. If you're a big ag person out here and it takes you to go down this road to get your crops to market or whatever it be, or if you're going to build a feedlot and you need gravel, they ought to be able to bring the gravel into you. And you shouldn't have to go someplace and get a permit from someone, that's kind of like saying you got to go get permission from someone. They shouldn't have to do that. They pay taxes.
Oh, I agree. I'm just, once again, it's just to reinforce that once you pass a resolution that would put a restriction on our road, then the enforcement side of it, which would be law enforcement, they would have to have something in place to be able to say what's allowed or what's not allowed. If through that resolution, you say just because you are a landowner in the county, potentially that could be acceptable. I don't know, Bob. But I mean, that would just be opening for discussion at this point. Can that be acceptable? Possibly, but I would say that we'd have to visit with law enforcement to see if that is enough to be able to allow them to be on a restricted road per your resolution.
22nd Road is not restricted now, correct?
That's correct. The only
We got
restriction,
cement trucks and rock trucks and farm trucks going up and down the now with no permit,
that's correct.
no need for one,
That's correct. The only one we have is Embankment Road.
just because, as we said, the Corps engineer don't want them on there, so.
That's correct, because of the bridge.
I'm with Bob, I mean, if it's being used as it is now, I mean, I don't know why we'd want to restrict them
Mhm.
on 22nd especially. Now I can see Highway 50 because of the situation, but
Well, once again, as I started out in the conversation, mine is not to restrict locals. And I said that at the very beginning. Mine is commercial traffic is where you're at. Mine is that you're looking at treating each road equally. I mean, if that's what you want to do, once again, that's totally up to you.
I think 22nd as it is, I said, I mean, we don't have any restrictions on any roads now, I don't know why we need to start personally. Other than embankment, and there's justifiable reason for that one.
Agreed.
Well,
Much government.
yeah, no, that's fine. That's, once again, it's your decision.
Now, as far as the shoulders on 50, I don't, you know, maybe I'd like some discussion with the rest of my commission as to what their complete thoughts are, but I agree, we got a kind of sore subject, a black eye in that area, if you will, that we need to probably do something sooner than later, in my opinion. What that something is, I think it would require a lot more discussion between us. Personally, I mean, for me, I don't know what the rest of you all think.
In my mind, I'm not sure there's a simple solution to it.
Well, no, there isn't, but I mean, if you say it's, you know, total replacement of a mile of that highway for $1 million, I mean, do you do a mile a year for 7 years and then eventually you're there? You know, I mean, that's one thought. There's several ideas out there, but almost the 5 of us that maybe we can come into agreement with, in my opinion.
And while you're doing that mile, the other miles you're not doing, they're starting to break out. So when you're done with those 7 years, then you're going to continue on to replace the other spots.
And that's exactly right.
Where's the happy medium? Yeah, I agree. So,
Happy medium, leaving it like it was.
well, but it's worse than what it was, in my.
It's worse than what it was now.
So, I mean, so in other words, we gotta do something
Before
to
we did this,
rectify.
the blade guys kept the shoulders pulled up on 050. The trucks met or come down and they got over a little bit, they got on a pretty solid shoulder on 050. And then the blade guys would come in and blade them back up. Things went pretty good. But then we decided we had to make a super highway out of it. And now we're where we're at.
So what's?
I don't have the answer. The answer is, I hate to spend $500,000 tearing out $1 million worth of stuff we just put in, but we've got to do
Well, I
something
think
because
Wayne's
it's
point
unsafe.
is the $1 million was to do the project as a whole, not just the shoulders. Am I correct?
No.
The million was the shoulders from county line to county line.
County line to county line.
Shoulders.
So,
But
but
you got $500,000 in shoulders from 75 to county line.
no, we have that much extra. I mean, of course, we could go through the bidding process and such, but you guys are hitting on the points. The points are basically your cost. What is the cost that it's basically taken us to maintain the road?
That's, yes, that's the problem now, is if we're constantly going out there and repairing something, we need to do a permanent fix of some sort, as permanent as you can get.
That or remove them. I mean, you have both of those options.
Send it back to how it was.
Or send it back, yeah, that's removing it, send it back to where it was. The thing is on the, restricting loads and such as that, once again, that's cost. How much is it gonna cost you to maintain a road? Okay, so that's what that's about. We're talking about Old Highway 50. What is it gonna cost you to keep it or maintain it at basically the 24 feet? What's it gonna cost you? Well, to maintain it at 24 feet, you're gonna have to do that extra cement treated base, that extra hot mix asphalt onto it to maintain it at that width. Now, keep it in mind, what was some of the reasons, the justifications of spending that extra money at that point was just a couple $100,000 extra for that particular project. That was at 7 miles. That's all it was. It was just 2 inches of hot mix asphalt, 4 foot wide. That was added, okay? What was some of the justifications and reasons? We got to go back 5+ years. One of the big ones that came up in my mind that I recall, and Fred may help me on this one, was school buses. School buses meeting each other, or school buses meeting a truck, had to take the shoulders.
That's true.
That's what I remember. I remember people saying that the mirrors were broken because they had to take the shoulders, and it was on the safety of our children to say that's what we had. Then we also had discussion about the elderly residents within our county do not like to drive on 35 highway. That's too fast. They like to go on a slower road to still be able to get to, say, Emporia, okay? Or even to Ottawa, okay? They would take Old Highway 50. And so those were the reasons that basically, due to this maintenance, that we were widening the shoulders, okay? 10+ years back, and Bob, you'll remember this, you got a great memory. I told you what it would take to basically fix the shoulders and widen Old Highway 50, and it was about $1 million a mile. At that point, we said, no, that's just too expensive to widen it. And that was 10+ years ago, okay? Then we found that we had some maintenance on Old Highway 50. With a little extra cost, we were able to widen it and get it to make it a little bit safer, okay? And that's where we were. So everything I'm talking about as far as restricted loads or improvements of roads is on behalf of safety, and it's also on behalf of cost. And mine is what would you like to do? If you'd like to keep all roads equal and the same, then we stay where we're at, and we'll pay the bill because of it too.
Wayne, I think you have a good memory too. I said at the time, it's not gonna work. I also said at the time, why would we build a superhighway to the county lines and then they turn into the roads that they turn into just so citizens can go somewhere else to spend their money?
Well, what I remember is, not to contradict your memory, is that 35 highway was just a couple miles north of there. Why would we?
That was also a question brought
That was
many a time.
That's what I recall.
Runs parallel with it.
But yeah, but those are all once again factors.
Okay, that's history now.
Mhm.
We're gonna figure out what we're gonna do now.
Yes, sir.
Something we all should think about for a little bit. I mean,
Yeah, we need to think about it.
yeah. But I agree, something needs to be done.
So 2 options. One would be the,
And you met it too.
did I meet my time? So 2 options would be, one would be to grind it up, take it back to 20 foot. And then option 2 would be to bid it out with improved subgrade shoulders.
Do you think 500,000 would do from that 7 miles?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
And you know, I don't have a problem if school buses and trucks have to slow down to 45 mile an hour when they meet each other and pull over just a little bit. I mean, you got a school bus that's 45, 50 feet long, you know, pretty soon, that's just a distance, a short distance. If you pull over, you might have to slow down and pull over just a little bit. I'm okay with that. I would much rather be doing that than spend another $1 million on something that's not gonna work.
And that's an option. I mean, if it's something that you're wanting to reduce speed on, I mean, you could, that's an option too. But keep in mind too, that speeds do not reduce by themselves. What happens is whatever you post on a speed limit is what they have is there's a study, it's called the 85 percentile, is what you'll find is traffic will find its pace based on the geometry of the road, the hills of the road, the clearing and overall safety, is they will speed or slow down based on those type of factors. And so you can post a speed on something, say for example, a person says, well, the speed coming south of town here in Burlington is posted too low. So you always see them speeding. Well, that's just the nature of the traveling public. So if you underpost something, what you'll find is actually they will run that speed limit beyond what's supposed to.
But part of our conversation was too, Fred and I went back and forth on this a little bit, was that road was one of the safest roads in the county at the time. Before that, we had, as far as accidents, it was the least amount of any of them in the county. And Fred made the comment basically to the fact that the reason was because people knew it wasn't a good road and they didn't drive as fast. And my comment was, so we're gonna make it a super highway, make it a better road so people will drive faster. Fred says, well, no, that's not necessarily true, but that is true. If you get it, that first 6 months that road was there, people were zooming down. So if it goes back to the 20 feet, the way that it is, people are going to drive on a 20-foot road and not a 22-foot road where 2 foot of it, or 24 foot where 4 foot of it is a hazard. So I'm not
That
opposed.
could happen.
Yeah.
That could happen. I agree. That could happen. There's a double-edged sword. Every time we make the road smoother, we increase the speeds. There's no question. Did I meet my time, Tom?
I got it, you did.
10 o'clock? Or you're done with me, that's one of the two.
I think we're beating a dead horse here for a while.
Yeah, I need to think about it.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You want to say?
All right.
Thank you. You want a break, Bob?
And what else we got? You got anything else?
You got something, Sheriff?
Oh, I was just gonna,
No.
that payroll notice, and just bring you guys up to speed on that, on what we're doing.
Okay, is Wade in for roundtable or no?
What we find slightly.
So,
uh,
you got something you want to bring?
Oh, I was just gonna bring you up to speed on, we got an IT technician hired, and he started today, he's starting today. He's got some certifications, technology background. There's gonna be a learning curve, obviously, and so we'll get him up to speed and show him the different areas, and it's a whole new area for us as well, so. But Trey Gilbert's his name, he's from Waverly, lives over there on Fisher Street, married to the Tyson girl.
All right.
And so, very nice young man. He's been working for AMC Theaters as a networking specialist, computer specialist for AMC Theater Corporation. And so we'll see where we make progression at on that, so. The other thing I'll just bring you up to speed on just briefly, because it's gonna be a long-term thing down the road maybe, is about a week and a half ago, we had a car pursuit, police pursuit that came into the county from Allen County. And we did end up intercepting this car chase out at 12th and Verdure, that area. And we took over the chase. Just so happened I was in the right location to roadblock. Anyway, without going into a lot of details at this point, we did end up having to spike the vehicle, but that still didn't end the pursuit. And then we ended up having to use of force, which was, I guess that's one time it was good to have the pickup that I have with the push bumper, because they were driving an older model Chevy Suburban, but they were endangering a lot of people. And so we did end up use force vehicle to vehicle at low speeds. and, that stopped the chase right there and then, so, we're gonna provide the case to Wade down the road, that from a there may be some legality stuff down the road, some legal, civil, whatever. So I just wanted to let you guys know about it so that you didn't, if something came up down the road, it didn't catch you by surprise. So, all right, any question? All right, thanks.
Nothing more of it. Thanks.
All right, thank you, guys.
Oh, I forgot one. Oh, PBX is gonna start on Emmer on that bridge. Actually, they're gonna close it today.
Okay.
And it should be about 2 or 3 days that they'll be working on that bridge.
You're out of time.
No,
You're out of time. You use your time.
I feel like one of those detectives.
Yeah, it really shows. Crime gets solved in an hour on the TV show, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Next week, when I go to city council.
Wade's on the way.
Oh, that's around. Not everybody got a chance to see it. I did sign it. Who was around?
Wade's on the way.
Okay. Do you have anything?
Back to that. Tax abatement you had a question about.
Oh.
So it's here. Apparently there was an appeal with the landowner and it said the results were damage to or condition of improvements or buildings considered in the final decision of the value. So there must have been something with that property that was
Yeah, we,
debated on, so. And I don't think I have anything else.
Tim? Patrick?
No, I don't.
Geez, they're not very talkative. They are, Randy. I don't know. I'm kind of, Highway 50 is kind of a thought of mine as well. I mean, what the exact answer is, I don't have one either, but I mean, something we all maybe should. I'm sorry, I didn't sign everything on the checks and everything's there.
I was looking for the original.
That's it.
Yeah, that's, we have a piece of paper.
I think the sad part is we can't leave it the way it is, because it's a hazard.
Right, so that's what I mean. We've got to do something. Sorry about that. I thought that was it.
Yeah.
Let's put my glasses on so I can see.
Well, we thought when it started, it was gonna be a fix.
Yeah,
It hasn't been, so now we need to decide.
yeah, we need to do something to rectify it. Something for everybody. I drive it once in a while when I come back from, we got projects in Emporia and I gotta go check on those, so I'll drive it once in a while and just ponder on, okay, what could we, what should we, how can we, so.
I drove it Saturday night.
Yeah, we need to do something. You know, is it doing the single treated stuff based on the shoulders? I mean, because eventually, I mean, not, in my opinion, eventually, that road will fail. I mean, it may be at the time where we're not getting as many dollars coming in as what we got now. So that's, again, taking advantage of where we're sitting sometimes is not a bad idea.
Did Wayne say the cost of tearing the extra width out would be?
Say we had up to $500,000 to spend on it.
He said he thought he could get it done, the way I understood it, for $500,000 from 75 to Levo, both sides. And that's going out, excavating 4 foot out, lime treated, or cement treated subbase for 2 foot. Normally what they do is when they lay that asphalt in there, to bring that shoulder up, they create a wedge in there so that it don't just fall off. So,
Well, that other truck's on that road before you widen it.
Yeah, it's coming out in chunks, so I mean,
And it's no fun.
no.
You wouldn't wanna ride with it.
And it's probably not the only project, it's probably not the only project in the state of Kansas that didn't pan out so well, so we just need to figure out need to agree on a way to rectify it.
But it's the one we put the money in.
I agree, Bob. So, but what can we do as a present commission to rectify it? That's all I have. Done.
Remember that next Monday's a holiday, so you have a commission meeting on Tuesday, the 8th.
Okay.
And also Wade gave me this invoice statement that needs to be paid for $9,401.16. And you need to decide what you want that paid out of. That was for Bob Johnson when he was hired to do some work.
Can Wade have a fund to get outside people trouble?
No, he doesn't have anything in his budget to pay for that.
Well, for me, it should come out of the general then,
Courthouse general,
but this is a suggestion.
I thought you had a fund for outside counseling, council, or whatever you call it.
There's a fund for outside counsel. I think it's a very minimal fund because the expectation is that I handle everything internally. But from time to time, outside counsel may be needed. And this was one of those unusual circumstances where, based on the nature of what the underlying issue was, I felt I needed to step aside so that someone else could come in and get a different set of eyes on the issue, and that's what happened here. So I'm not sure how to deal with that, but it would be well over, I think, what's in the county councilor budget is somewhere around, if my memory serves me correctly, $4,000.
Yeah, 5645.
Courthouse general.
Yeah, I would recommend, if you want my opinion, general fund, courthouse general line item.
Yeah.
That's where you pay your insurance out of too, and things like that, so.
If you need to, subtract what you need out of the 5,400, and then, because that's what it's there for, so.
Yeah.
and then also, if there's time today, we need to take a group photo of the commissioners for updating the website, and also an individual shot of Tim. So I don't know when you want to do that, if you want to do it directly after the meeting or what.
Yeah, my tie on.
He never wears. What works for everybody?
Well, are you taking the picture? We can do it when we come back for our, we're just gonna recess and come back.
Your interview.
What time do you want to come back after recess?
Time's the interview, 1,
One. We just come back at 12:45.
45, be sufficient, wouldn't it?
And recess till 12:45 when we recess. And
Okay,
we can do it at that time.
Okay. that sounds good.
As long as Wade don't have too much where we can't get out of here before 12:45, I guess. We haven't hit you for round table yet.
It'll take a few minutes for me.
Well, it's your turn, Bub. Unless you had something else done, sorry.
That's it.
Okay.
So I have a couple of executive sessions, but I'll get to that in just a minute.
Thank you.
Sorry. You guessed it?
I did.
So, first thing though, I want to just mention, since it's a weekly thing and it's becoming something that I think the board needs to be aware of, because it's getting I think it's getting worse. We have 12 inmates now in other counties, or in Anderson County. We have 11 in Coffee County, and some of the 12 that could be in Coffee County can't be here because of their co-defendants, and they can't be in cells either near or around each other because they'll have contact, and then that creates its own other issue. So Anderson County charges $44 a day, and if you look at 30 days, that's around $15,000. If you do that, expand that over 12 months, you're getting expensive. We have one that's in Osawatomie, and then one in juvenile detention, which they'll be a bill for that, and I'm not sure whether they'll stay in detention or not. That's to be resolved. So then the next question, because you hear all across the country right now about bail reform and having people out on personal bonds and those type of things, the type of people that are in the Coffee County Jail are being held elsewhere. The highest bond is $350,000. There's several that are in that same neighborhood, $250,000, $10,000, $125,000, $150,000, and then several that are below that, fluctuating downward all the way down to $2,500. So I only mention that so the board's aware, and the people who have high bonds, in my opinion, should have high bonds. They're the type of people who, in my opinion, are either a danger to the community or have, that's what the base, or a flight risk, or all of the above. So that's kind of where we are, and I think the board just, it needs to be an ongoing dialogue, because as the architectural renderings come out and there ends up being a more clear and definite idea behind what a new jail facility, what it looks like, what it's going to cost, the public needs to be aware of what's going on behind the scenes. And that's why I mentioned that.
Do we need to talk to them about doing partial juvenile detention in that?
That's more of a law enforcement question. I think you need to have a separate facility.
There's different rules for that. There's a whole set of different guidelines you gotta follow on that, and being juvenile, they're a lot more stricter. You can't house them in the same buildings, and there's so much that goes into that.
So separate facility completely.
Yes, it's a whole other can of worms you gotta look for.
So Wade, with a new modern facility, are you suggesting that there would probably be room to house this person over here and this person over here, keep them from the contact?
We end up having, so my example from my experience is Allen County, where there's multiple pods. And the pod system, you can put multiple inmates in the pod and keep them separate. And let's say you have pod A, B, C, and D. And at the point in time when you don't have enough inmates, then you can shut down an entire pod, and that is minimal cost, but it ends up being available. If you have a situation where you have multiple co-defendants in a case, then you can place them. But one of the issues here is you have a male and female population and only so many cells available to house, and that's more of a probably sheriff or undersheriff issue, but I know enough about it to at least stand before you right now and say it is an issue, it is a concern. We have multiple females, probably more females in custody right now than maybe Coffee County has ever had.
Yeah. I mean, we're sitting there with 6 in Coffee County and 1 in Anderson County.
So I just mention it because it's an issue. I see it. The cases aren't slowing down. One of the notes I was given, there's been 13 arrests in the last 7 days. And then three warrants have been executed on Coffee County cases that are sitting in other jails elsewhere that will have to be picked up. So those are individuals that will have to come here.
And of those 13 in the 7 days, 7 of them are still incarcerated.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think it's a realistic thing that the board and the community needs to be aware of. And, you know, I'm filing cases as they come in. I use my discretion. I don't file every case, but if a good case is put before me, then I'm gonna file it. Sometimes the cases that I filed recently are very serious cases that need to be handled so. And to let certain people out into the community doesn't make sense in certain types of cases. So, any questions for me or for the sheriff or under sheriff in reference to?
Thank you for the information.
Yeah. So, and Anderson County has what, 54 beds? They just rebuilt or built a new jail. So the good news is for several other cases where we have Coffee County inmates in Anderson County, we can, unless it's an evidentiary hearing, we can link up by Zoom, have the appearance that way, and not have additional costs transporting back and forth. But if it's a certain type of hearing or an evidentiary hearing, then they do have to be transported back, which is the additional cost. And I don't even know what the cost is, because you have to get a jailer, at least two jailers to go over to Anderson County, pick them up, come back, and then they can't stay in Coffee County typically, so they go back. So just, we're talking about a lot of expense, at least in the situation we're in right now.
Is it still an extra expense like when you Zoom, because you have to have an Anderson County deputy take them? That's not an extra cost?
So-
The on-duty jailer can walk them into the Zoom room and just hook the computer up and they do all that. So that's just everyday work.
Correct.
Or getting to be.
So that's just a brief update there, and I might do that from time to time, just so you know.
Information.
Sure.
Usually. Yes.
You signed up on this payroll notice. Do you want to go ahead and do a motion on that since you guys signed it? So we have it for record, or?
I guess I don't know the answer to that. We haven't in the past. I know.
Usually you approve a payroll notice for, in this case, an IT technician in the sheriff's office for new hire Forrest Trey Gilbert, the third, classification to BB1, wage $21.52, effective 8/31/2020. That's how you normally.
Yeah, you're right. Every time there's a new hire, we do, right? Yes, right.
Well, that's not necessarily true. We haven't always.
Not always.
Sometimes we just let it go, that we sign it and let it go.
Okay. I just wanted to know if you wanted to do.
I just assumed elected official was his department to do with the motion, so.
That's fine. I wanted to make sure we were staying consistent, but whatever, that's fine.
Wade says we're okay, I'm good.
My opinion's gonna be anytime something like that moves through, to have a record of it. That way you have, if somebody wanted to come back and say, how'd this happen? Then it's in the minutes, but I think it's your preference, whatever you want to do. I know when I had the new employee come in the county attorney's office, it was done in front of the board approved it, you can go back in the minutes, and I think that's where it is, but that's my opinion.
And I didn't make the motion, I have no problem doing that. I didn't even think about it.
I didn't either, because like I say, I was looking at it as an elected official.
Right.
I mean,
So
payroll-
I guess I would.
Payroll notices go by without motion.
I don't have anything in writing, but I would, the language that was used, the move to approve the job payroll notice for Trey, what's Trey's name? Gilbert as an IT technician for the sheriff's office, entry level TPB 1, effective today. Effective today.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Help me with my memory. But I was thinking Tasha was your IT person.
Right.
And that when you needed additional help on occasion, you would contact this company down in Iowa or whatever.
Right. If you remember right, here about a month or so, what was it, 6 weeks, a couple months ago, when after Monica left, Tasha is going back to communications, and there was gonna be that change.
You would cut Tasha's salary back.
Right, we were gonna make that change. She was getting compensated temporarily until we got an IT technician hired. That was the discussion here a couple months ago. And so we still have that company. We have a, should I say, like a bank of money so that if it's something that we need to get outside assistance on that's above our abilities, then we can still consult with that company. Which in the IT world is my understanding is that happens. You can't know everything about everything when it comes to IT. That's for sure. It's very complicated. I have a lot of respect for anybody that wants to take that challenge because, but,
So who'd be picking up Tasha's salary then, so to speak?
yeah, what we're gonna do is, he starts today. He has some time that he's not gonna be able to work because of previous commitments. So what I'm looking at is over the next 30 days, and we're gonna transition that over and be done. And so, but he did have some prior commitments prior to hiring him that he's gonna miss some work this month. So,
If he works out as well as you're hoping for, you shouldn't have to rely on advanced computers
that's right.
very much either.
That's the hope.
So that's a little bit of a plus side.
Absolutely. You know, in my mind, we've created a job. We have, but it's a job of somebody in our community, a family, young person, versus the money being paid out to Advantage Computers in Iola. Nothing wrong with having them as a backup, but use it sparingly and don't waste that. When perhaps we can figure out a solution for everybody on the technology side and we can get her done. That's the hope. But we started him at the entry level position as an IT technician because I'm not familiar of his level of capabilities yet. And I felt like I always, if I didn't know somebody's capabilities or their background, I think they should start at entry level and then go from there. And, so.
I really hated to see us go this route because I was in hopes that a couple months ago that we would have things working different, but the way things played out, it didn't. And I'm really not in favor of this, but since you're elected official and you have that right, I'm going to support that. I'm going to support you with it because I think that's your call because it wasn't.
And I think the thing to understand is IT, the technology in law enforcement is expanding every day. Just like we've got this grant setting with all these laptops that go in patrol cars. Well, they don't update themselves and they don't fix themselves. And we got video that we're trying to resolve that issue and trying to get the video. It just, law enforcement has become very complex. And it doesn't always happen Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And I mean, we've seen it this weekend. We got calls. There was issues on computers and stuff this weekend. It's just that it happens. It really does. And so I think to have somebody who specializes in law enforcement and focuses only on those areas, then you can keep it up and running. Because if it goes down, it's a serious thing in my mind. It's nothing to take lightly. And so I think we're very fortunate. I'm not going to disagree. We're very fortunate in this county. And with that and the ability to have the equipment we have, we got to support it too. We got to support it.
So,
Since we only record, in the minutes,
Right.
motions,
Absolutely.
I think if we as a group do support it, probably it'll be put into the minutes.
I agree.
It's well documented.
I have no
And
problem.
everybody knows exactly where everybody stands.
Absolutely. I have no problem with that.
Angie made up some type of a motion.
She did.
Like,
You want me to read
most
it
of it,
again?
so.
Yeah. You're much more better at it than me.
Move to approve the payroll notice for an IT technician in the sheriff's office for new hire Forrest Gray Gilbert III, classification CPD1, wage 21.52, effective 8/31/2020.
And that is the entry level that I just got to look at, so. With that being said, also move, Mr. Chairman.
She has moved. Second.
I'll second it.
Jim seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I will keep the commission posted on how we transition or how we advance over the next 30 days. Make sure we can get everything straightened back, and hopefully on leaving filter. And the last thing is the jail budget. I know Wade gave you an update on the inmate population because you guys probably have been seeing the bills come in for the housing costs. We are trying to watch it very closely on the jail budget and try to keep that from going over budget. But it's going to be close. It's going to be close. We're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul and we're going to do our best. I just didn't want it to be sticker shock.
Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, sir.
So I'm gonna have two requests for executive session. Before doing that, someone mentioned the quote, so I'll just give the quote first. So the quote for today is by John F. Kennedy Jr. from a commencement address at Yale University, June 11, 1962. For the great enemy of truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic. Too often we hold fast to the cliches of our forebears. We subject all facts to a prefabricated set of interpretations. We enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. And that's some food for thought right there. Especially that last sentence. We enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. So, in my mind, before you have an opinion, you need to think about it. And then make your opinion or form your opinion. With that being said, request a motion for the commission to recess into executive session for consultation with the county counselor to discuss potential county litigation in reference to matters deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B2, and that would be for 10 minutes, myself and the commission.
I'll second.
Bob moves. Fred moves. Seconds. Bob seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You said 10 minutes, right?
10 minutes.
Okay. We're going in 10:23. Yeah, I'll give us.
You pull anywhere this weekend?
I went to Lyons, Indiana.
Lions, Indiana.
We qualified Friday for Friday night show, and then we did qualify Saturday for Saturday night show. So there's 63 trucks.
Oh, that's a lot of trucks.
Yeah, there's 63 in their class, so they split it up into 2 tracks and had 30, some on each. And they took the top 2 of each.
That's it. Jeez.
Yeah, so we qualified. See, I think we wound up 6 in qualifying Saturday or Friday, and then we pulled in the night show and like 14 out of 26. So wasn't bad, but it was 1:45 in the morning when I pulled on the track.
I imagine there was some big boys there.
Yeah, I mean, there's Pennsylvania, Utah, Idaho.
Wow.
I mean, all over East Coast, Florida. I mean, just nice.
I seen a lot of haulers coming through this weekend. There was one up at Vito, and you could tell some kind of racing hauler, you know, just because of the graphics on the side and they pull down on the back.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's some other races or something going on, or
Yeah.
I'm surprised though that he stopped at Vito for the night.
Yeah.
Usually they're pushing pretty hard to get where they need to go.
I know, we got up yesterday morning, me and the boy and his girlfriend got up and flew home, so it was a long drive. I was wore out when I got home.
I bet you were, I bet you were.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, take care, Randy.
All right, man.
early.
I'm still in executive session. Nope, nope, I'm out now. Oh. Yeah, Donna sent me that email about Lake Region, not having meetings.
Yeah, okay.
I'm back in session.
Back to me again. So I'm gonna request another executive session, motion for the commission to recess into executive session for consultation with the county counselor to discuss county policy for the purpose of providing legal advice in reference to county policy. And those matters would be deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 754319B2. Myself and the board, 20 minutes.
I'll move. I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We'll go in at 10:38. You said 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
Come out of 10:58. There, I gave it 3 minutes.
Give us, so yeah, give us more time, give it.
How long are they in for, executive?
Till 10:58.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
coming back. Have you anything else, Wade?
No, I think I've done enough.
Hey, Wade, I have a list here of things that you want me to remind you. Have you covered all of those?
Oh, yep,
And then that discussion.
yep. So my understanding is at the last session, the internet went out during checks and vouchers.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was discussed at the beginning of the meeting because I wasn't here, but I think so to keep from having issues from the outside looking in, I think that needs to be at least mentioned today so that if, and I don't know what time the meeting went offline, but that the meeting went on and there's no nefarious someone shutting it off so that some illegal discussion or action could be taken on behalf of the board that legitimately did the power go out? Is that what happened?
I don't know.
No, I don't
Brad
think
just
it
come in and said, just let you know, we're offline. It's like,
Okay.
I don't, he didn't explain why. No.
I wanted to make sure.
Brad.
So Brad, what I'm discussing right now, at the last meeting, the power went out
Yes,
and the live feed went off. And then what happened wasn't, from that point forward, was not recorded and it will never be, it's just gone.
yeah, it's gone. We
So-
lost internet connection outside the building.
So I just wanted to make sure, so when somebody watches that meeting and it goes out, that it was a legitimate issue that had nothing to do with the board or the county.
In the recording of it, as far as notes, I put in lost internet connection.
Okay,
And that's what it'll say on YouTube. We lost internet connection at the end.
and lost internet connection to the point where the meeting didn't come back up and go online.
Correct.
I just wanted it to be noted so that if somebody goes back and looks and if there's what I would characterize as a complaint or a concern about what happened and why it wasn't put back up, then that hopefully will clear it. There was an internal, external internet issue that had nothing to do with the county. And unfortunately, that's just, in an electronic age, that's bound to happen. I know it happens with people's cell phones, it happens with their providers, they just go out, power goes out, whatever it may be, but I wanted that to be mentioned in this meeting so that if there were concerns, they would be noted.
Should we recess? If something like that happens, recess until it's hooked back up? And I don't know what the terminology is, because
And the problem is, I don't know when it came back online, you could be sitting,
there'd be some unknown there.
I think doing what's being done right now, it's noted. Anything officially that took place during the meeting would be noted within the minutes. If there were any executive sessions, anything otherwise, which is really all that's required under the Open Meetings Act.
I think it went out while we were in executive session, didn't it?
Yes, it
We
did.
We didn't have any idea that it went out until after we came back, and I think we did, I don't know if we did any action after that, actually.
No.
Sure.
So we're
So,
ready to
No.
recess.
So we didn't take any action.
but I mean, on the outside looking in, if that happens, and especially if you're in executive session, then you come back and there's nothing. Well, I could see how somebody on the outside could say, well, of course, because they were doing things offline that they shouldn't have been doing, and I just want to help alleviate those concerns so that if somebody has that suspicion, that suspicion has been addressed. And, you know,
Just so they'll know, we did not take any action when we came back.
and if there were any action taken, it would be recorded in the minutes. And like I said, there is no requirement that the meetings be live streamed or recorded. That is something that's being done in an effort to display transparency by this board. But when technical difficulties occur, you just can't, you have to roll with it, and it is what it is, but that's why a disclaimer today is important, so that people know. So that was the only other thing that I had.
Anybody else?
Can I throw out a few dates for checks and vouchers coming up in the next few months? So September, looks like September 28th, which would be meeting day, following the meeting. October, looks like it'd be Wednesday the 28th, if that works for everybody.
That's what we put down there a couple of weeks ago when we went to the,
Oh, did you already do this?
Okay, let's go through them, yeah.
Okay.
Just whatever.
What did you have for November? Because I don't,
November, you mentioned the 25th.
okay.
That's on Wednesday. When's the Thanksgiving dinner set up for Angela?
We'll probably do it, see, Thanksgiving's 26th, 27th. We usually do it like the Friday before Thanksgiving.
Be done on the 20th.
Or do you want to do it on meeting day? That you're here. We could do it the 23rd or the 16th. 23rd, probably a lot of people will be taking off that week. Use a vacation or something for the holiday, but, or we could back it up to the 16th and do it on Monday.
We just gotta have a date to work with.
20 is fine.
Friday the
Planning on
20th.
canceling, are we?
Huh?
We're not planning on canceling it, are we?
No.
Okay.
No, I was just trying
What
to
I'm
figure out a
thinking.
date that works for you guys, when I set it up. If you want to do it on a Friday that you come back in again, or do you want to just do it like on a day you're already here?
We're talking about the dinner, right?
The dinner,
The 20 is fine.
Is that Monday?
that's a Friday.
Right.
Friday.
The 20 is fine. What I find that sometimes on Mondays, we run late.
True,
That's-
that's true.
And it's down there, we're providing this for the employees, then we don't get there.
Okay, so we'll do it that Friday, the 20th. And then, just the checks and vouchers, the 25th. In December, we have the 28th.
28th, so we have set up.
Okay.
And the 31st.
And
And the 31st. And on that, I know from time to time you guys like to make changes and stuff, so do you want someone else to do your transfers this year? Or do you want me to continue with that, or?
I think you've done a good job in the last 14 years I've been here, so I want you to continue with it.
I'll just give you the option with new commissioners and different ideas, so. Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
And what time would that dinner be on the 20th?
We usually do 11:30 to 1.
So the courthouse will be closed from 11:30 to 1.
Yes.
But in the court date for you is Wade,
On Friday.
Friday.
As of right now, no.
Subject to change. Well, if that's it, we will recess at 11:08 until 12:45, and we'll be back here to go and interview candidate number 2.
So, can we meet in the lobby at 12:45 and take a picture in front of the county flag?
Okay.
That work for
In the
everybody? In the lobby? Okay.
All right.